It's 5:30. I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Can I get a motion to read by title only?
Motion.
No discussion? All in favor? Opposed? The first appropriation ordinance we have is 2025, being enacted by the Fourth Court of the County of Marion, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance amending the annual operating budget and numbers and compensation ordinance 2024-61 for calendar year 2025 for Marion County, Arkansas. Transfer unappropriated funds from 2000 County Road Fund to 2000 period 0200 period 1005 County Road Fund, Road Department overtime and other premium compensation for the purpose of working overtime in the road department for the remainder of this year. The appropriation will be from the County Road Fund, 2000 County Road Fund of $40,000. Excuse me. Appropriation to County Road Fund, Road Department, 2000 period 0200 period 1005. May I have a motion? May I have any discussion?
Yes, I have a question. Why is overtime already depleted from the road department? It's only, and these were numbers from the end of June, actually. Correct?
Judge?
We've dealt with multiple natural disasters. We've been working extra Fridays almost every single week since January. We're still doing tornado cleanup for 24. We were 32 months behind. I would say we're about 28 months behind now. We're catching up. We'll be working Fridays all the way to the end of the year.
Any other discussion? I would like to go ahead and get a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Second ordinance, appropriation ordinance being enacted by the Fourth Court of Marion County, Arkansas, ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance amending the annual operating budget and numbers and compensation ordinance 2024-61 for calendar year 2025 for Marion County, Arkansas, unappropriated funds from the Field Fire Grant Fund 3562 to the Field Fire Protection Distribution Fund 3562-0508. The total amount will be $15,000. Appropriation from 3562 Field Fire Grant Fund in the amount of $15,000. Appropriation to Field Fire Protection Distribution Fund 3562-0508. Which is for machinery and that distribution for machinery and equipment. Can I get a motion? May I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No discussion, I'd like to get a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Appropriation ordinance 2025, be it enacted by the Quorum Court of Marion County, Arkansas, and ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance amending the annual operating budget and numbers and compensation ordinance 2024-61 for calendar year 2025 for Marion County, Arkansas. To transfer unappropriated funds from 3502 FEMA DR-4788 fund for the reimbursement of services for response to federally declared disaster on May 26, 2024. Appropriation from FEMA DR-4788 3502 in the amount of $11,163.76. Appropriate to County General OEM Fund 1,000.0500 in the amount of $11,163.76. May I get a motion?
Motion.
Motion a second.
Second.
Any discussion? May I get a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? Resolution 2025. Be it resolved by the Quorum Court of the County of Marion, State of Arkansas, that a resolution authorizing the county judge of the county to apply for a grant on behalf of the county clerk. Whereas Marion County is applying for a grant through the Association of Arkansas Counties for the purchase of 4 scanners. Whereas the new purchase will upgrade the equipment in the clerk's office for the purpose of scanning land records, court filings, etc. Whereas the Quorum Court of Marion County, Arkansas, recognizes the need for this project, concurs its importance for this grant, and wholeheartedly supports the efforts to proceed with this project. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the county judge of Marion County is hereby authorized to apply a grant from the Association of Arkansas Counties for the purpose of securing grant funds in the amount of $1,763.78 to aid and assist the proposed project described herein, and the county judge is further authorized to administer the grant fund for the said project. May I get a motion?
Motion.
May I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
When will you know if you have this grant? Sorry.
I'm just gonna say I'll clean up that ordinance.
Oh,
We're
no,
supposed to say Marion County instead of just county. I'm sorry,
When will you know if you get this?
October.
October, okay. Thank you.
No other discussion? May I have a vote? All in favor, say aye. Aye. No opposed.
Thank you.
Then our sheriff has brought one for us. Be it enacted by the Quorum Court of Marion County, Arkansas, and ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance amending the annual operating budget, numbers and compensation ordinance number 2024-61 for calendar year 2025 for Marion County, Arkansas, in order to establish a county general unique fund 3408 to be called Vehicle Equipment Replacement Fund, and to declare an emergency.
Can I talk just a minute?
Yes, please.
Or is it time for that?
Please go ahead.
We're trying to get a vehicle lease incorporated to lease vehicles, patrol vehicles. And this is the beginning stages of this, creating with Ms. Amber, a special fund, this 34-year-old, that unique fund. That's just for the lease vehicles. And nothing else. We don't even need money tonight if we decide we're gonna try to go with the lease. We don't need money. We just need to create that fund in her office. So that's all this is. But now we have Roman here with, Enterprise Leasing, who I would like to talk to you, just like him to say a few words to you about the lease program. And let Chief talk to you about it. He knows more about it than I do.
Running in the ground with this, but just to give you a little history. When we took office in January 23, we had roughly 30 vehicles in the fleet, and a lot of those were on the hill. Just because they were in disrepair, they were old. They did purchase from aftermarket vendors like Chicago Motors, very high mileage. Obviously, after it gets about 100,000 miles, it can continue to go up. We've been able to manage the fleet. I know if you skip a year on vehicles a lot of times, you go from being able to be a fleet manager to just kind of poking the holes, and stopping the bleeding if you can. Being at ASP for a long time, we ran into those years we weren't able to purchase vehicles and found ourselves trying to play catch up, which is a lot more expensive than it is to manage the fleet. So what we've done over the last couple of years, we've got roughly 20 personnel that are commissioned or what we call gun toters that are out in enforcement positions. And of those 20, when we look through the fleet, we've got roughly 5 to 6 or 7 vehicles that are well north of the 100,000 mile mark. And you're looking at the total fleet numbers that we've got, we've been able to purchase them the last 2 or 3 years, and we've gone with the Chargers going out of production, and they're being replaced with Ford pickups and some Chevrolet products, and also the Dodge Durango. We've been able to replace the Dodge, or some of the fleet with the Dodge Durango, and we had, I think, 5 or 6 Ram pickups when we took office. Those are also some of that 5 or 7 that I mentioned that are north of that 100,000 mile mark. What we're wanting to do is a little background to look at acquiring vehicles through a lease. It's not renting a vehicle, or it's not going down to the airport, picking up 2 this month and swapping them out next month. This is a plan I looked at pretty heavily back around 2016 when I was on command staff at ASP, because it was one of those we felt like we could bring a lot of vehicles in, especially the unmarked vehicles, and trade them out on a year-by-year lease. In getting with our representative from Enterprise, one thing we wanted to do is see if anybody else around here that looked like us was doing it. We found that Carroll County and also Wizard County are doing this, and also city of Bentonville, Benton County. So there's 3 different counties in this north central and northwest Arkansas area that are doing it. You get down to Central Arkansas, there's quite a few of them. I think Bryant, Denton, Little Rock was doing some of their unmarked fleet. But it's gotten to be a pretty successful program for not just Enterprise, but also the law enforcement community. And so what we're looking to do is trying to bring a vehicle in, get it upfitted, and put it into the fleet and drive it for an extended time from 48 months to a 60-month lease. And during that period of time, we're looking at, by the time we acquire, say, 6 vehicles, which we're looking at trying to acquire for this lease, for this end of the lease, an annual payment of roughly $60,000 a year allows us to bring in 6 fully equipped vehicles at the cost of what, vehicles can be running roughly from $38,000 to about $45,000. The upfit or the build out on it runs about $15,000 to $16,000 to $17,000. So it's easy to look at $60,000 per vehicle in some cases. We're able, if we can get the lease to go through, we can look at having 5 to 6 to 7 new vehicles rotating in and out before they hit that 100,000 mile mark for about $60,000 a year. That doesn't include fuel and maintenance, but at that point, all we're doing on maintenance right now on our vehicles that are under that 100,000 mile mark is tires, fuel, and oil. So it's pretty well low, keeps those numbers down as well. But there's the way it works, and I'm going to turn it over to Roman here in just a second to kind of, he's very well versed in this from being a representative from Enterprise. But we worked with him for about the last 2 years to do this and get it up and going. So we researched it, we kind of kicked that can down the road, if you will, to see what it looks like. We also wanted to see if there's anybody close to us that we could talk to. The city of Harrison's done this, and they've done it for the police department, they're buying police department vehicles. I think what they also call their white fleet or their maintenance fleets for city, road, things like that. So they kind of incorporated it there. Also on the law enforcement side, close to us is the drug task force does that. They go on a yearly lease where they trade them out at the end of each year. What we're looking to do is get the vehicles that we want, been proven to us that are good working vehicles, and that's the Dodge Durango police package, and also a basic Dodge pickup that we can put out with our investigators. But our plan is that we could go to the lease and pick up 6 of these vehicles, and we have to have them upfitted or have what they call the build out of the upfit. We've got to get all the communications equipment, the lighting, and anything like that, cages, anything that goes in that vehicle, we've got to get it done. We've got a program now through Enterprise that we can save on paying any sales tax on that we've been paying here in the last 2 or 3 years. On say $15,000 upfit, we do 2 or 3 of those, we're well up to $45,000 to $60,000 that we're paying sales tax on. We found by going through Enterprise and getting the upfit done through Enterprise, we can save the money on that upfit and not pay the sales tax on it, and use that savings maybe on laptop computers or something like that, but also part of the build out. So what we're looking to do is if we can pick up 6 vehicles, 3 of the Durango police packages, and 3 of the standard Ram basic model pickups, get those outfitted. We can push 3 of those out on the patrol side pretty quick as soon as we get them upfitted and issued out. And take 3 existing Durangos that have got low to mid mileage on, and also push those out on patrol. That gives us 6 vehicles on the patrol side, and using those pickups as administrative or CID vehicles for the investigators. For the cost of a 6 vehicle lease, we're putting 9 vehicles out on the road. We're also able to turn them back in at about that 60 month mark. And this is not like I said, it's not a rental, but the equity is more of an equity lease. So any equity that we get at the end of that lease, when we sell those vehicles, that equity comes back to us that we put toward maybe the next year's lease that we choose to continue with the lease. And that's kind of the 50-cent version for me, but what I'd like to is draw up to it. Roman Aldice is here from Enterprise. We've worked with Roman for about 2 years now, going back and forth on this and trying to, I'll probably ask you every stupid question about this if there is. And he's been very patient with us and put us in contact with an outfitter in Springdale, so we're not going to have to go, to Missouri or any other place. We'll go to Springdale. So we won't have to go to Springfield. We're way off to get these vehicles upfitted. We did last year on the first couple that we got. We went to an outfit in Little Rock. We were waiting 4, 5, or 6 months to get our vehicles back. They were quick and ready to go. We were competing with Little Rock and the state police and some of these people that had 50 or 60 vehicles on the lot down there. And we didn't get a lot of love from them. We only had 3 or 4 vehicles that were getting worked on. So we found that what we think could be a good partnership with Enterprise and also their upfitter out of Springdale that we're basically asking for about a $21,000 down payment. What that down covers is all the upfit equipment. It depreciates at a rate about 50% of what the vehicles do. So we pay roughly $20,000 to $21,000 a year one time on the front end of the lease. And then after that, we'd have about, I think, a $55,000 to $60,000 annual lease that would give us 6 new vehicles and then 3 additional vehicles that we're pushing out on the road. So we're looking at what we could be paying for 1 vehicle a year in the upfit. We're looking at maybe getting up to 9 vehicles on the road to the sheriff's office. We hadn't been able to do that since we've been there. We're tight on vehicles, folks. We beg and we go get them worked on. We squeeze everything out of it we can from the vendor to take care of it, and we've had good luck at doing that. But we're at the point now, if we don't start adding some vehicles in there and getting a rotation on that, we're going to be back at the same place we were in 2023 with just a bunch of bones sitting up there that we were spending money on that we didn't need to be spending money on. But if y'all are up to it, if you have any questions, I'd be glad to take them. But Roman's the kind of subject matter expert and rep from Enterprise, and I'll turn it over to him and be able to answer any questions. And I'll take yours if you have any.
Let me go ahead and get a motion in a second so we can open up the formal discussion. If that's okay. Is that okay? May I get a motion? I'd like to open up discussion for Roman from Enterprise.
Thanks for having me, guys. Just to add a little bit more, so our territory that my office covers is Oklahoma and Arkansas. We currently have about 45 government clients between cities, counties, universities. Just this year, I've partnered with 6 different government entities across Oklahoma and Arkansas. And really the whole concept here is, you all, I'm sure, are familiar with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. I'm in our fleet management division. So what we aim to do is take the infrastructure, industry expertise, and economies of scale that Enterprise has as a massive company and bring that to a local level to where government agencies can piggyback on this. So what that looks like is helping you guys purchase vehicles. We either purchase through the state bid or we order directly from the manufacturer and negotiate state incentives, whichever's cheaper. Typically, ordering directly from the manufacturer is going to save us an additional $500 to $1,000 in going off with the state contract. Reason being is there's not a dealership who's in the middle. So we go in, we factory order the vehicles, we have them delivered directly to the upfitters. We handle the logistics of that. Obviously, Mark and Sheriff are very involved in what actually is going into the vehicles. They work directly with the upfitter to get the vehicle spec'd out how they want. And then we coordinate the logistics. We take care of the payment on that. And then as he mentioned, so any outfit over $10,000, we require 50% down just to account for the fact that it doesn't depreciate at the same rate as the vehicle. So our end goal is, once we're getting our proactive replacement, we're replacing at given points in time. Enterprise then has the ability to pick up and sell that vehicle for you. And then we take whatever equity comes out of that. And it can either be cut back as a check to the county or applied as a down payment, which is normally our recommendation. Because what that does is build into the program and get more vehicles on lease. The one difference with this compared to paying cash is obviously this is a 5-year term. So if we're adding vehicles, the annual payments are going up as we do it. Well, once we get to the end of the term, when we can sell it, say we have $10,000 to $12,000 in equity to roll, we can cut our monthly payments by anywhere from 30 to 40% on that second generation of vehicles. And that allows us to build into what we're trying to get into without necessarily just growing the budget like crazy. The other thing, and part of why this vehicle equipment replacement fund is important, is we aren't always necessarily going to spend all the money that's appropriate. Because, typically, if you guys were going to appropriate funding for 2 vehicles, we're needing $100,000 to $120,000. Well, it's not my job to come in and say, hey, you've got $120,000, let's spend $120,000. But we still want to, if possible, keep consistent funding coming into this as if we were replacing 2 or 3 a year. Because now, in year 1, we're spending $60,000. Well, in year 2, we still have $60,000 left over from the previous year that can pay for those. But if we have additional funding coming in, it allows us to grow that pot and get more vehicles in there, start to cut back on our operating expenses, and get to that point where I think the ideal goal for the Sheriff's Department is that all vehicles are either under 5 years old or with less than 100,000 miles. With our data, we have about 3 million vehicles on the road as Enterprise. 80 to 100,000 miles is where we start to see the critical repairs pop up at a much higher statistic. And so our goal is, as we're sitting here talking, I'm meeting with these guys annually, and we're looking 12 months out. And we're saying, hey, these vehicles are at 80, 85,000 miles. Let's get new vehicles on order so that we can get them in, upfit, and ready to go so that as that vehicle hits 100,000 miles, we're swapping them, we're taking this vehicle, we're going and selling it, we're applying the equity to the replacement. And so our goal here, we can typically replace 4 to 5 vehicles for the same cash outlay as buying one outright. And so for a lot of my smaller counties and cities that I work with, it's just a means to get to where they want to be. Because if you're going out and paying cash and we were asking for 6 or 8 vehicles in 1 year, we're talking $400,000 to $500,000 by the time it's done. So this gives us a way to get to that point where we're replacing more vehicles, having a healthier fleet, better vehicles for the drivers, everyone's more happy, and just getting to a point where if we can stay cost neutral from what you guys are already doing, we can get everything from an 8 to 10-year-old to a 5, that's what we in my ways. And so I'm happy to address any questions that you guys have, but that was my 5-minute spiel on what we are. Who we are.
Judge, you have anything?
Right now, you're just asking to create the fund number, correct?
The fund number, and Miss Amber's got it. I guess that's all
All
of
of
that.
that, I've got nothing.
Well, with the fund number, we'll go ahead and order, but we don't have to come up with the money until after the first year.
This money you should be asking for budget time.
We'll ask for this at budget time.
Yeah, so I'll clarify on that. So there's no payment, either a down payment for the equipment or for the vehicle until you've taken possession of it. And so there's typically a 3 to 4 month lead time on ordering vehicles. And then probably 4 to 6 weeks would be my conservative guess on the vehicles being outfit. So if we ordered vehicles today, my projection would be either late December or early January is when these vehicles would be getting in, starting to be outfit. The other thing though is if vehicles did land in December, you wouldn't have any type of payment until January because they moved into the next billing period before that. We can also order vehicles with a need by date so that if we said, hey, we can't take possession of these vehicles before January, we can let the manufacturer know that as we order vehicles so that we don't have vehicles just sitting on the ground waiting to be activated until after the new fiscal. We also have in our contract, which you'll get probably in the next meeting, a non-appropriations clause, meaning if we were able to order vehicles and for whatever reason funding wasn't appropriated, you do not have to take possession of those vehicles and there's no penalty to it.
That was going to be my next question. Thank you. Yes.
And the reason that's in place is because a lot of times the budget year doesn't line up with the ordering windows. So we don't want to miss out on a whole model year because we have to wait till November to get final numbers. So we can get those orders placed in September, obviously under good faith that we're moving forward with this, but if something happens with the appropriation, you're not entitled.
All right. And no percentage of law. Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, and that's specific to government contracts. We also, all of our government clients piggyback off of Sourcewell as their RFP. We have won that RFP, I think, 6 years in a row now. So almost all of our clients will just piggyback off of that so that their due diligence is taken care of.
Like mentioned, as y'all know, we use WEX, a Ride Express for our credit cards for the fuel for deputies when they have my bulk fuel. There's also a part of this lease that allows us to kind of migrate over to the enterprise, I guess, branded account.
It's a WEX account that's specific to enterprise. The added benefit to that is every time they're getting gas in the car, they're obviously plugging in their odometers. And so now, not only will we have access to the full fleet list with the odometers, mileage, all that, so will they. And it makes it a lot easier for them to figure out from a maintenance standpoint how many miles they've gone, the different things like that. And then for us, the selfish reasons, we want the data. We want to be able to see what the vehicles are at. If we have these set up on a 20,000 mile per year term, it's not that they can't go over that mileage, but we also want to have a really good idea of what the end mileage is going to be so that we can project resale values. So for instance, we had one driver who, for whatever reason, was going 28,000 miles a year. We can reach out to these guys and let them know, hey, this vehicle's trending higher than what we're projected. Might be time to switch with a lower mileage application so that we can try and keep all these vehicles tidy. And then part of what we do is we're sitting in with an annual review is we're meeting with these guys on all the rest of the fleet. We're bringing resale values on the vehicles. We're putting new numbers in front of them from what the incentives are. So just as an example, during COVID, incentives basically went away. That's why you saw the jump from being able to buy like a $28,000 Charger to a $40,000 Charger, because they just slashed incentives. The vehicle prices didn't go up that much, but you used to be able to get 10 to 12,000 for an incentive. It went down to like 500 bucks. So every year it's been changing, but Dodge and Ram have been the only ones that have gotten extremely aggressive with their government incentives. And so that's why I kind of sound like a Dodge salesman sometimes, but that's just because they've been so much more aggressive trying to earn business, whereas the Ford Chevys of the world kind of let their name and reputation do it. They weren't going to fight for the extra government business.
So is the down payment just initially entering this contract?
Yes, and it's only for vehicles that have the aftermarket option. So for instance, the trucks have like $3,500 in aftermarket on it, but because it's under $5,000, we don't require a down payment on it. It's tiered, and it's just because the depreciation rates are different. So we don't want to be in a position where that Durango's way upside down because we have $15,000 of equipment on it that doesn't really hold any resale. So that just helps keep you guys equitable longer throughout the term so that we don't have a position where we're upside down.
So
And then
then that equipment then will transfer to the next vehicle if they have.
whatever can transfer to you will, yes, if they choose to do so.
They can, there's also part of that program that there's other entities who go out and buy that on a different market and let's just give it away or have it sit up. You know, Connex over this, which is what happened the last several years with vehicles. You know, the build up will take place, the build out will take place, and then we pull equipment out. I'm telling you, I felt like Sanford and some of the first couple of years we did these, because we were taking and begging and borrowing gun racks and radio mounts and everything. We were carrying them down the Little Rock, and they were just nice enough, if they do something, to let us use some of that old equipment. But we've gone through that on everything that we've got now. The other part of that too is the vehicles that y'all have purchased for us the last 2 years, we'll be able to roll those over, maybe go into that fund. Because when we sell those, we're gonna get a better turnover than we did on the other cars. And the trucks that we sold last time around, we took off, they were worn out. Completely worn out, we didn't bring a good price on them, but I think, you know, we inspect the vehicles, the supervisors inspect them, they're in better shape. We think we'll get a better return on the ones that we own right now. It can also be applied toward the lease as we go forward.
And we worked with the city of Harrison on actually selling some of their own vehicles. Now, it's a kind of a county ordinance. We have some cities and counties that were able to sell their vehicles, others can't because they have to do a surplus, be put on a public auction. So it just depends on the ordinances of the city or county. But when it comes to the leased vehicles, since they're titled to enterprise, we can sell them under our normal channels like we do our rental cars. So we take them out to dealers, wholesalers, and really are able to drive up the price of those vehicles because we're not just going to an auction. But with Harrison, we recommended them sell their own vehicles because, you know, they had 10-year-old Interceptors that if we stripped them down and sold them, it would be worth $1,500 to $2,000. But they sold them to small agencies, security companies, things like that, Purple Wave, and got $7,000 to $8,000 back. So it's kind of a case-by-case basis, and we help guide that. But in that same example, we told them what the vehicles were worth, and that's what they marketed as. So a lot of people don't know this, but Enterprise's main profit center as a business is the resale of our vehicles on the back end, the rentals. Because we buy vehicles super cheap because we're buying over $1 million a year. We're really good at managing the operating expenses in between, and we know when and how to sell the vehicles. And so capturing that delta there is one of our largest profit centers. So we're able to do that for you guys with any of the leased vehicles and depending on your county ordinances with some of your personal vehicles as well.
Thank y'all for listening.
Insurance. We still carry.
Well, we still carry the insurance to Association County.
Yeah, it would go the exact same way.
If we own it and lease it.
No, it would be the exact same way. The only difference is any of the vehicles that were leased through us, we would be the lost payee in the event of a total loss. And so if we're 3 years in and you total a vehicle, the total loss funding goes to Enterprise, we pay the vehicle off, and then whatever's left over goes back to the county, typically as a down payment on whatever we're replacing. Good question. Anything else, guys? All right, thank you guys.
Tom? Yeah. Hey, Sheriff, is there some way you put for going forward, just a real summary proposal? Just, I mean, not long-winded, but just the numbers and how that all works, just something like a sheet summary. You understand what I'm getting at? So we'll have-
We got it. I just didn't see
Oh,
that. in the crowd.
okay. Asking ye shall receive, I guess. There you go.
The only thing that we need, right now is for the court to approve this ordinance so that they create the fund.
I understand that, but that's just what I'm saying. We've got this, and we need to do that. If everybody at the board has that, so they understand. I mean, I don't have a problem with it, just make sure they have the numbers there. We're trying a lot of things, because I think we do not have a little bit. And I dealt with the program, but I'm not going to get into it with construction equipment, and it's kind of a similar thing. Yeah, that's what a lot of them are going through, and I think the county does that, and some other areas. So I understand, I just want to make sure that they understand the thing. That's all. And the proposals and the whole bit, yeah.
in section 2, the Marion County Clerk, that office doesn't mess with funding and budgets and stuff, so. I can strike that out. In normal, in different counties, my department falls under the clerks, but we're under the judge in Marion County, so I don't know how you want to reword that. but-
We did look at some examples from different places. We got a different look at every place, whether it was Carroll County, Guilford County, for instance, didn't do an ordinance. They just had the rental agreement, the lease agreement on there, and that was it. So everybody that we've asked for an example, we've got to look at the different, certainly make those changes.
So just strike out and the books of the Marion County Clerk at the
Yes.
same time.
Yeah, because the clerk's office doesn't
Okay.
do anything with budgets or funds or anything. It's treasurer's office and comptroller's office.
Good catch. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
What do you think those Dodge trucks are better for?
I'm not saying Dodge trucks better than Ford, but they're a whole lot cheaper.
They've been lasting, they last.
Yeah, and really, from our data, what we see is that half-ton trucks, almost entirely across the board, operate at the same cents per mile from a maintenance standpoint, up to 100,000 miles. Where we start to see the fluctuations where one might be a little better than others are beyond that 100,000 mile mark, which our goal is to never let you guys get there. The other added benefit is, I think, based on the averages, you guys put about 10 to 12,000 miles a year on like the truck specifically, higher mileage on the patrol. But in the used car market, low mileage used vehicle like that, 40, 50,000 miles on it is a gold mine. And so we project really good resale on those, no matter the brand. Ford's always going to sell for the highest even used, but if you spend $7,000 to $8,000 more on the front end, that's that extra 2,500.
Judge?
I'll tell you this, I don't know if it's better, but for 3 years on 12-hour shifts, I put that Hemi to the test. It never failed me once.
I do have one question before we go ahead and move to the vote. The company, what I do for a living, we also have a leasing program. And this is just from the direction I'm coming from is just questioning, say, for instance, we have an immediate breakdown. Now, how's that gonna work? Are we gonna send it to a dealership and let them work on it? Or are you gonna provide us a vehicle in the meantime to operate?
So these are effectively your vehicles.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
depending on how you guys do it, we can help coordinate all that. And we have maintenance programs. I've talked to these guys about it. It doesn't necessarily make sense based on the setup that you guys have now. So the process would be, yeah, you would take it to your local shop, your local dealer, whatever, and have them work on it. Now, obviously, we're the largest rental car company in the world, so we can always help you guys get a vehicle in the meantime. But when we're talking about patrol, things specific to that, you can't really substitute.
We
stuff.
keep a couple, I hate to say spare, because sometimes with zero spares, because the spares are out. But what we've been trying to do is when one goes in, we try to schedule it. Like we've got a couple that had some exhaust manifold issues. We put one in, and as soon as it came out, one of the guys that we had the same issue with the vehicle took it over and picked that other one out to work. So, but as a rule, they don't give us a vehicle to drive because there's no way they can give us a replacement vehicle that's set up to do that type of work. But they're usually, we try to schedule it on days in, days off, the guys on their, they've got a long week, depending on the type of maintenance to get it in, but, you know, if we hadn't had a problem doing that, we've kind of got to juggle baseball every now and doing, but it gets them out. Two dealers that we have on the left and right of us, Mount Home Harrison, on Dodge brand products have been really, really good to work with. Matter of fact, we pulled one from, one specific, repair, auto shop that took it. They got us in, that afternoon. It was a major problem. It was covered under warranty. They jumped on it and took care of it. So we got a really good working relationship on both sides of the county to do that. So.
Thank you for clarification. May I entertain a vote? Or, excuse me. We already got a motion, that's it. Yeah, we'll go motion second. So I'll need to entertain a vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Amber, would you like to?
Okay, so you guys should have some packets on your desk, that I laid out. This is just kind of a mid-year review of, that front sheet. This is what we give to the auditors whenever they go to do an audit for, comparing the 90% of revenue, to your expenses. So the very first column, you'll see the actual carryover for the year. And if you look everywhere that's got red highlighted, like the lettering is highlighted red, that's just where projected carryover was over what actual carryover was. So, and which I included in the packet. It's the third page. It'll show you the carryover actuals to the projections, so you can see by what amounts and everything that were on there, what the difference was. Now, everything's doing really well. We are still well into the 90%, aside from law enforcement, but we kind of prepared for that with the conditional transfer. You're gonna also find an actual revenue year-to-date compared to our projections, so you can kind of get an idea on how much we brought in up to this point. And then in the column next to it, you'll see how much we're either over the projections or we're still under. And then, of course, I provided a treasury balance summary report year-to-date as well too. So if there's ever any questions or anything, if you guys, take this home, go over it, please reach out and we'll answer anything you need to.
Amber, can you explain this one more time?
Yeah,
Sorry,
of
this is
course.
all brand new.
No, it's actually something that we really just started with last year.
So the green is the 90%.
Yes, and so basically that is gonna be your actual carryover and projected revenues. So 90% of that compared to your expenses. By law, I'll have to look at the code exactly, but we can only spend 90% of the revenue that we bring in. Yes, so this helps us keep track of that. We can make notes, anything like that, to stick in there for the auditors when they go to do their audit reports.
So this is our 90, what's in green is 90% of what we're expected.
Well,
to have
yes.
income, yeah.
Yes, this is what our projections are.
The red is our expenses as of
Today's day. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And then, like I said, with that actual carryover line, those red numbers that are highlighted, you'll find the attachment included as well.
And I was like, where were the red numbers?
And I went through to go look at what could have caused the difference, and most of it is that there was more expenses in those certain funds than anticipated at the end of the year.
Thank you.
Do we have anything else?
Did Justice Reed not provide a new ordinance for the libraries? Okay,
Yeah.
well, my fault, I assumed it would be here because he's the one that originally wrote it. So I will have one for the forum boards for August. We'll have Dawn put it out there, but I'm not sure approval of it. All we're changing is it's going to have a bottom number of 16 to go to the 1925. That wasn't in there before. I want to make sure y'all are okay with that, and I'll have my side draw it up so there's no more confusion. So it'll be in the packet, but I have to get that through. Okay, Julio.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
And the only other thing I have is when you're sending in your appropriation ordinances, please do me a favor and make sure to include the comptroller and the treasurer in those so they can have a record of that as well. If we don't have anything else, I would go ahead and, sir.
I've also spoke to Justice Lee. I haven't got the email out yet, like I said, for all the JPs. I'm gonna ask all the elected officials, the Friday preceding this meeting, to have their ordinances or resolutions sent to y'all. That gives them the weekend to look over it. I would like for it to also be the Friday preceding a Thursday meeting of personnel or procedures management, but I can't say, hey, give me, plus 72 hours. So at least that Tuesday heading in a 48-hour coop would be nice, but the weekend before would be awesome for those of y'all that work. So I will be sending an email out saying, please do this so that we have all eyes on this weekend here.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
If we don't have anything else, I would like to, Tony?
Well, I have something, just to kind of put it out there for me. Okay. Not a lot of my constituents, some of them talking about this half percent sales tax for the law enforcement center. I'll give you an idea about how convoluted it's gotten. One said, well, they don't like the law enforcement center, too big for county. Yeah, I know all about it. We got it. Okay, that's it. But this one person made this proposal that we need to shut that down and build a smaller facility. And I said, excuse me? I mean, you're like, what, 65% now and 9 bed. So I said, that's what we're talking about. I said, so what do you want, 50 bed? And well, I didn't want it smaller. I said, okay, let me tell you what's going to happen if you did that. First of all, what are you going to do with the facility you just paid off? Number one. Number two, you build a smaller facility, it's going to cost probably as much or more than the existing cost of what it did to build that. That's not going to work. So my whole point of that is that there's a lot of voters out there who don't really understand what is going on here. Is that half cent is it's not going to increase that. And what I'm trying to say, we need to let voters know that if it passes, if then we gives match money to the law enforcement center for the sheriff or whatever it is, doesn't have to come to county general year for like, I think last year was about $900,000. Okay, now I know there'll be other times you'll have to ask it, but if at least when money comes back to county general, then we can look, and I'm not saying we have to, but let the voters know that then we'll look at sales and use tax and the percentages there. I know 5% has to go for 911 and get some others. I've made some kind of proposal, but I'm finding out more and more. I'm not saying that you have to do that. I'm just saying you're going to have to let the voters know that if it passes, it's really going to help the county where we can probably move some money into areas where we need it. Like, to give you an example, Judge told me and that the crusher up there had to be rebuilt, but they have told him that once it goes out, it's done. You can't rebuild it again. You have to get a new. What's the new going to cost? Okay, well, it's going to cost a lot of money, okay? So what I'm saying is, there's going to be other things going on too. All I'm saying is that the forecourt and the budget, and somehow we need to get it out, the word out there, that if this passes, then we are going to look at the other budgets to see where the money can best be utilized. Because I've got too many are saying, well, I'm not going to vote for it. Well, why? Well, we've spent too much on the jail now. I said, I mean, I don't want to tell you because it's there. We have to support it. We've got it. We don't have any choice. So that's one of the things I'm really concerned about is that they're going to go in there not fully understanding why we're putting that out there. So I'm just shut up. I'm talking. So
Let me jump in there real quick.
what's that?
Let me jump in here real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
October 1st is the sheriff's and I's begin date
Okay.
of this promotion. If we start now, it'll fizzle out by November 18th.
And I
So we got a lot of questions. I got a town hall meeting tomorrow or Thursday night, 9 Mountain. All right, we're starting that process. But October 1st, the sheriff and I, you'll see us on XL7. You'll hear us on KTLO. We'll have more town hall meetings, things of that nature. That way, it's a push to the vote and not 3 months to where everybody just dies on it. And anything that's political like this is going to be a sales tax. You have to keep that fire loop going. So October 1st, all those questions will start to be answered more. There'll be more meetings they can come to and vocally ask their questions.
And that was my next
Yes.
thing is that I will have town halls also
Yes.
at the Eagles Community Center like those so that people can come in, my constituents, and we can explain that to them.
We'll have 7 weeks of steam going into November 18th.
Correct. We just need to let them know, we're gonna look at everything, the budget committee and the foreign court, and make sure that the money being spent is spent in the places where it needs to be spent, and it's gonna be done quickly. That's all I'm saying. I've had some proposals presented, and I've done some more study. I'm not gonna get into that, but we can't really decide that now anyway. We can't do it until that half cent, board law enforcement passes, and then we can look at the budget, how it comes in, where it needs to be, what he's gonna have to get into. You're right, currently it's 27%. Okay, maybe we cut that down and put it in some other places, transfer stations, not carry over. I don't know. But I'm just,
You can't get a half cent and take away from the first cent.
no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, no, I'm not, I'm saying that on the percentages there, maybe move them around with this utilized. Not order, you understand? You now understand what I'm saying?
Guys, I got 3 years to invest in that.
Okay.
And it's rolling.
Well, I know, but that's why I'm not saying that we can change, we can't change it now, we can't change it till we know if the doggone thing passes. But we do need to let the voters know, we're gonna look at all of it. Because that's what they're telling me is, they don't wanna vote for us, they just think it's just, we're just pumping more money in the county and taking more tax from it. I'm explaining to them, but not doing this. All right, there, I'm done.
All right, with, no other discussion, I'd like to get a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
May I get a second?
Second.
Let's head to the house.
You all sign your sheet.